everybody, and welcome to another episode of Healthy AF. I'm so glad that you guys are here with me today. It is a hot July, and I hope you are staying well hydrated. I know I am. And I hope you are taking care so that you have some time inside so you can rest. It's hard on our bodies being out there in the heat, and our pets too. So there's my public safety health warning. Take care of yourself in the heat. I wanted to talk to you guys today about questions that just everybody has. And so I went to my two experts on health questions that everybody has. One of them is my youngest daughter, and one of them is my oldest daughter. So my youngest daughter had a fabulous question for the podcast today. It was, how do I know the very best way to eat? I know this is a great question because I just covered this question with a client this week. Same thing. So what's interesting to me about that is I've got my 20-year-old daughter saying, I don't know the best way for me to eat. And I've got my 50-year-old client saying, I don't know the best way for me to eat. It's a very common question that we all have. And the answer is muddy. I'm just going to say that right now. I don't have a real super clear answer for you. I don't have you can calculate the calories you need by doing this, and you can calculate the protein you need by doing that. And simple, that's what you need. Everybody needs that amount. That's just not the way it works. So here's my answer to how do I know the very best way to eat? You know. It doesn't feel like you know, but you know. You might not have paid attention enough to your body to know, but your body knows. So when I work with any client who maybe has just been eating whatever they want to eat, and the wheels are a little off the bus, and it's been, I have a client who just is so funny. She calls it faux trail mix. You know, the trail mix that's mostly chocolate and it's got a few nuts and raisins thrown in. She's just like, let's just call it faux trail mix. When your diet is kind of off the rails and you are taking in way too much faux trail mix and you know it, and you decide to sort of start from scratch, how do you know where to start? Well, let's just pretend we're in session. And if you're sitting across from me saying, Amy, I don't know where to start, I'm going to say to you, well, let's start with what you know. And you'll probably say, well, that's just it. I don't know anything. And I'll say, how about I ask you some questions? So this podcast is going to be me asking you questions for your own exploration. Now, if you're taking a walk or driving in the car, if the kids are in the back screaming and you can't think, you might want to listen to this one later. But if you're at a time where you can be somewhat reflective, you can go ahead and explore and reflect on what the answers to these questions might be. If not, take the time to stop this podcast, schedule some time on your calendar to sit down with it. And as I ask these questions, these are great journal prompts. These are great conversation starters to maybe even have with a spouse or a partner or a kid or anyone who's really close to you and knows how you eat and maybe hears the things you complain about. Like, you're always thirsty at night. Why is that? Might be a clue for your hydration. So here we go. It's just you and me. You're sitting on your Zoom screen across from me saying, I don't know how to eat. And I'm saying, sure you do. And you're saying, no, for real, girl. That's why I'm paying you. I don't know how to eat. And I say, well, let's look at what you know. So the first place I always go is, what other ways have you eaten in the past that you can remember? Common ways people share they've eaten in the past is they've done keto or Weight Watchers or Optavia or Mediterranean, Whole30, meal prep. They've eaten all different kinds of ways and tried out different things. So take a moment to really look at all the different plans of eating that you've tried in your lifetime. If you're 50, there might be a few. And then I ask, what did you really like about the way that plan worked? And you might say something like, I liked it because it was convenient. I liked it because I pooped really well. I liked it because my energy level felt good. I liked it because I never felt tired after a meal. I liked it because I didn't have to think about what I was eating and it was just opening something up. I liked it because I lost weight. I liked it because I gained strength. There are so many things you know about when you eat this way, this happens. This works. So first concentrating on one specific way of eating and what really worked about that way of eating. It could be like, no, I tried that for 2 weeks, felt terrible, nothing worked. Great. Okay. Or I tried it for 2 weeks, I felt like complete poop. I stopped that immediately, but it was really cost effective. So let's think about all those things. Like what really worked and what did you notice in your body? So we're looking for, how did your bowels move? How did you sleep? What was your energy level like? What was the stress level around food, preparing food, paying for food, cleaning up from food, how it tasted, how satisfying it felt, how restricted you felt, how dominated by that plan you felt. Those are all such good directive pointers for you that you know. So the next thing I'd ask after we got through an exhausted list of what really worked for you about that diet, when you got so still and you said, I think that's all, I would pause and say, is there anything else? And it would have you stop and take one more look. Stop the rushing, stop the trying to figure out really fast. Just have one more little look. And usually there are 2 or 3 more things. And I might even ask you that one more time. And when we knew that we had completed the list of what really worked, eating that particular way, I'd say, great. What did not work about eating that particular way? And we'd make a list. And it might be, I had to write everything down and it drove me crazy. I had to spend a lot of time preparing stuff and I'd do it for the first couple of days in the week. But by the time the last couple of days of the week came and I was tired and homework hadn't been done and we had soccer practice and we were getting ready for the weekend, I just couldn't do it anymore. Okay. It might be, I hated the food. It might be, I had diarrhea. I had constipation. I couldn't sleep. My energy sucked. I didn't like eating the same thing all the time. That could be on the I liked it list too, right? It was easy. I didn't have to think about it. I have some clients who are like, yeah, I really like to get in the kitchen and like really like dig in. And it's the act of preparing the food and serving the food and how it looks on the plate. Great. Those are fabulous things to tap into. And some people are like, I don't like deciding. I don't like cooking. I don't like going to the grocery store. It stresses me out every single time. I make enough choices in my day already. I don't want to choose what to eat. Fantastic. So what doesn't work for you? about that specific way of eating. And you do want to take a really holistic viewpoint. It could be like, what didn't work about that is that every time my family had a meal, I couldn't have the same meal and it felt like I was missing out. Okay, great. Now we know you need something that you can eat with your family and still feel a part of things. When I gave up sugar a couple years ago, I thought that was really going to be a hard thing for me because that's, your kid having a birthday and you saying like, no, I'm not going to have any of your cake. I'll make you a cake, but I'm not sticking my finger in to test it out. So everything that didn't work about that way of eating. And then you'll say you're done. And then I'll ask you, and what else? And we'll play that little game for a couple minutes. And then we'll move on. By that time, we've got a bucket of data because we've done it for every single eating pattern that you've done. Now, most of us do notice some stuff about our bodies. Some of us notice everything about our bodies. Some of us don't notice anything. Or you're just 20 and you're just kind of in your grown-up body for the first time. Or you're 50 and you're in your perimenopausal body for the first time. Or you're pregnant and you're in your pregnant body for the first time. Our body continues to change, and what we need continues to change. So we start there with that nugget of this is what I know about my body. Then we look at all the data. We look at all the diets that are out there. I typically do not look at, I call it a diet, but it's really like a nutritional intake, or I hate the word diet, and actually it is the most accurate way to eat. What is your diet? Is what do you have as intake? So I look at what ways of eating have been around for a really long time. What ways of eating match up with the way I know I want to eat? Now, if you said to me, here's a very highly processed way of eating, I don't do well with processed food. So I would immediately say, that's probably not the one for me, or I need to moderate that and I need to go with a different kind of eating. So there's some common sense here, and there's some not jumping on bandwagons here, and there's some timeline, and most importantly, some tracking. Timeline and tracking. So when you are at a place where you really don't know what to eat and you've made your lists of all the different ways you've eaten and all the things you've noticed about your body and your mindset and your lifestyle and how that way really worked and didn't work for you, then you want to dive into, okay, I'm going to choose something that feels like it's going to make sense for my body, for what I know about my body. And I'm going to do this for a certain amount of time. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't care what you choose, but put a time limit on it. That keeps us from feeling trapped and powerless and dominated by our own choices. Okay. Let's not just say, I'm going to do this way of eating for the rest of my days. And then in a week, when you feel like crap, or when you're not seeing the scale move, or when you're not seeing your muscle mass being maintained, or if you just like are having diarrhea constantly, you can adjust, but you're sort of committed to, okay, I'm going to just try it for this certain amount of time. I'm not going to get married to it. We're going to date a little while. And while you're dating that new way of eating, you're going to track. And I mean, you're going to track. So when I say, and I mean, you're going to track, I mean, you're going to track how you worked out at the gym, what your appetite was, what your mood was, how you felt. Were you bloated? Were you peeing a lot? Were you pooping a lot? Not at all. What was the quality? Did it smell really bad? all those things. This is where you get into your nurse scientist hat, okay? And you start looking at all those things, and you start looking at your body like this thing that you love, and you are fascinated and curious about her. And you're like, what will happen if I eat a hot dog for lunch? What if I take off the bun? What if I add in some chili? What happens if I have a hot dog and some fries? There's a nap waiting to happen, right? So we're going to just go into experimental mode. We're going to say, I think based on the knowledge that I have, this is my next best step. I'm going to try it for this amount of time, and I'm going to watch with curiosity and non-judgment and write everything down. That's how we get to know our bodies. It sounds like a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be. And you know what? There's help out there. I myself know a lot about the way my body likes to eat. I shared with my client that in the past, my body has really loved a higher fat diet, higher fat, higher protein. And I know how I perform on that. And I know what my body tends to look like on that, how my mood is, how I sleep, how I poop, especially if I add in fiber. Sort of a higher protein, higher fat, higher fiber. And as my body has changed, I really am not sure what she wants or when she wants it. That has changed for me. And so I've gathered up all the things I know about the way my body used to like to be fed. And I researched some new things, right? I read some new books, talked to my physician, did some new kind of researchy things, got in that information, looked at what the older ways of eating were, what's got a very long track record. And then I sat down with a friend of mine and said, hey, I need some accountability here because now it's time for me to start tracking. And I'm great at that for about 3 days. And then I start feeling very dominated and I'm like, I'm out. So I asked her, can you be my partner in this? Can I talk to you about what I'm discovering? And her answer was, of course, yes, because she is a good friend. So this part is the part that makes it work for you because the way I eat isn't going to be the way that you need to eat and isn't going to be the way that she needs to eat or he needs to eat or even the way you needed to eat 10 years ago. So we want to experiment and track. You know, one thing that I shared with another friend who is in healthcare is that, you know, we know what a drug is going to do when we give it to somebody for the most part. You know, we know if it's safe. We know typically how it reacts in the body. But at the end of the day, when we dial right down into the genetic code on like how our liver cells metabolize that specific drug, different bodies do it differently. So even on a cellular level, our bodies are different. And taking a one size fits all approach, it's okay. But when you are the expert on your own body, there's a lot of knowledge that you have that will guide you in the right direction. And then a little experimentation and tracking will take you right where you need to be. And that's my answer for how do I know the very best way for me to eat? It's not clear, but it's just not an easy answer. I hope that gives you something for this July. And I also hope that you know that clarity is my jam, man. I can ask you questions all day long. We can figure out so many things that you know because I know you know them. You keep forgetting that you know them, but I know you know them. And with me asking you the right questions to figure out all the things you know, a lot of clarity on the next steps forward. feel free to click the link and schedule a little consultation and see if working with me for your clarity might be something that would be good for you. I'd love to have that conversation. Most of all, give yourself some grace when you eat a way that actually doesn't feel good for you, or you forget to track because it's day 3, or you just get so irritated with eating the right foods that you just completely throw your hands up. That's going to be okay too. We still love you. I will see you next time on Healthy AF. Thanks for being here and have a great week.